Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for 3 tips to attract and keep love if you have a prominent Cancer. And I'm speaking specifically if your sun is in Cancer, your moon, your Venus, or your Mars. Those are the 4 ones I'm going to kind of um, speak about specifically. And the reason that I'm including more than the sun sign is that actually you may have the sun in Aries and you have the moon in Cancer, and you don't identify with the Aries part of you when you're always hearing about how you're supposed to be based upon being an Aries individual. You may feel like it doesn't really represent how you truly are. And I'm not surprised because I think that there's a lot of possible influences when we're talking about specifically relationships. And I could actually see somebody who does have the sun in a very bold kind of sign like Aries, and then has the moon in Cancer, that you may be really gung-ho when it comes to your career, and then it might be your love life where you have a tendency to be quite reticent or overly emotional, and you're not like that in your career and you can't figure it out. Well, that could be the reason why. And the purpose of these things, these types of videos, is simply to give an understanding of how it really works when we're talking about love, because a lot of people, they probably tune into love readings or other types of readings if they're looking for love. Oh, I hope that they mention something about love because I'm really looking for that. Not realizing that you may attract love into your life, but can you keep it is the real question. And when I mean keep, I don't mean that you're just holding on for dear life. I'm talking about that it's mutual, it's a healthy relationship, and that kind of quality type of relationship. So here are the tips, Cancer. Number 1, keep your head. Cancer, you're a water sign, and it's easy for you to fall head over heels in love. Now, I will kind of modify that. I do believe that Cancers might be guarded sometimes. You might guard your heart. You may feel like you don't want to put yourself out there if you've been hurt before, especially. So it's not so much that you would just throw caution to the wind and all that, but you are a water sign. So you could fall in love very hard if you allowed yourself to. And I think it really doesn't matter what sign somebody is. I just think that that's not a good idea. Obviously we have emotions. We can't really stifle our emotions 100%, but I do believe that we have to look at why we feel a certain way and be, more moderate about it, because you may not be with the right person, and you may have a tendency to be attracted to the very people that are not good for you, do not support you, are not commitment oriented. Most Cancers are going to be interested in committed relationships. They're not going to be interested in just like friends with benefits situations. But I could totally see a Cancer woman getting involved in a friends with benefits situation because she is looking for love and thinking if only she puts out, this guy is going to see how great she is. I could really see a Cancer woman doing that, because there's always something a bit manipulative with Cancer. I know I'm going to dig myself in really deep with you guys, but I'm hoping that you can, see humor in it and that you don't take it to heart. But I mean, I'm not even joking with water signs, because water signs are very savvy about what makes people tick emotionally. And they're capable, if they so choose, to use that. Um, I wouldn't even call it knowledge. I would call it intuitive knowing, um, against somebody, simply by being able to kind of tune into where they're at. I mean, this could be very great for somebody who's in sales, who is trying to really tune into what his or her clients are looking for. But we're talking about a romantic situation, and it's not something that should ever be exploited in that way. And just want to reiterate that it's not that cancer people are trying to exploit. It's just that it might be a habit that comes from childhood of trying to get one's needs met get one's needs met by any means necessary. And if that means um, being a bit manipulative, guilting somebody, or what have you, you might do it, or just coming on so strong. One thing to remember too is that you're a cardinal sign. So cardinal signs tend to take the initiative. And so even a female Cancer who tends to be traditional and is interested in a male may may be the aggressor in a certain way and take charge of the situation. And what can happen is that you end up being very when I say you're very aggressive to be with somebody, but you may have not really done your homework on whether or not this relationship is a good one. It's always best, I feel, especially when you get to be a certain age where you can discern what is appropriate for a relationship or not, that you um, are not trying to dominate the situation or force someone's hand, or just like, yeah, force the issue in general, but that you kind of put it in its proper perspective. The next thing is, don't take yourself so seriously. And I wrote down when I was writing, typing out my notes, I said, is my comment bothering you? And what I meant was that I knew that I could possibly offend somebody simply by, having that be one of my tips. But seriously, Cancer tends to be very sensitive. Sometimes we can say hypersensitive, especially if the moon is in this position, because the moon is the emotional nature. And with Cancer, if your moon is in Cancer, your emotions are fluctuating all the time. And if your sun is in Cancer, you may be more comfortable with your basic nature and don't feel a need to, how can I put it, that you don't have to protect yourself as much, because are you have like a certain ability to understand yourself. The sun is the sense of self. And so when the sun is there versus the moon, there may be more confidence and more a tendency as a Cancer to, especially, depending on what your moon sign is in, be more detached, not be so emotionally dependent on somebody or something along those lines. But in terms of taking yourself too seriously, this comes about from hypersensitivity, where a person feels like they're always being insulted, and other people may respond to you that, no, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not doing that. Some people don't like it when they feel like they have to walk on eggshells around a person who's always accusing them of trying to insult them, hurt their feelings. That will not go over well with most people. And it's better if you are able to laugh at yourself, if you're able to have a lighthearted attitude towards yourself, including the things that you know are your little quirks. That's a much better way to approach life. Granted, it's easier said than done. Anybody can make suggestions, but being able to execute these things is not easy. It does take a lot of commitment. But the point is that if you put it in your mind that you're going to do it, then you have a much greater chance. Okay? And so the number 3 tip is monitor any tendencies regarding codependency. So the reason that I wrote that is because even if you finally get into a relationship, Cancer is a sign of the mother. And so it's very common for even Cancers who are not parents yet. When I say mother, it could easily be the father, but in terms of the archetype or the symbolism of that 4th house, it is going to be the mother. And that's associated with nurturing. But when you get into adult relationships, sometimes you will have relationships where one person is almost like the parent. Maybe they're the only ones who work. They drive the other person in their car that they've paid for to their partner's buddy's house, almost like dropping the son off to their friend's house. They will buy, maybe nice clothes for their partner, but they have to pay those bills. And in that scenario, even when they get the kind of relationship that they think that they're looking for, they end up with an imbalance of some sort. And the reason being that when you are somebody who is looking for love, you have to make sure that you're not, perhaps not choosing well, settling for less, believing that taking care of somebody to that degree is somehow normal or whatever. And I'm not talking about, 2 people and one who live together are married and one person loses their job and the other one is kind of helping them out. That's a different story. We're talking about even going into the relationship at a deeper level, that one person is, in a more responsible position and the other one isn't. If the other one is kind of like being a homemaker, that can be quite a different story, And I said one person, maybe you're the one with the career and your husband is staying home with the children and cooking every day. And it works out perfectly for you. But, on the other hand, You may have a situation where you're getting involved in a relationship with somebody who doesn't have a place to live, who doesn't have a job, and they kind of suggest that maybe they could move in with you, and it's like you've only known them a few months or something along those lines, or they ask to borrow money from you early on in the relationship. That's a red flag. Borrowing money from somebody during a relationship, no big deal, but early on in the relationship, total red flag in my opinion, because it's like, and I'm not talking about borrowing money for the bus fare, I'm talking about, asking for money from their partner. That is a red flag, and it goes without saying why it is early in the relationship. It's just, it could be that the person is using you. But again, not everybody is having those experiences. So I just wanted to cover the basis of why, Cancer people can trip up sometimes when they're looking for love, as can all the other signs. Obviously, I'm doing this for all of the signs. Sometimes people write to me and say, well, Taurus isn't the only one that is like this. And it's like, no, I'm going to be doing other signs. And I want Cancers to find the best person for them. You have a lot of love to give. And you have to be willing to give love to people, maybe just universally, but when you're in personal relationships with personal love, you have to make sure that your love is being appreciated and not exploited. I think that's a big one with Cancer, because you do love to take care of people. And unfortunately, that might attract somebody who needs to be taken care of. So anyway, I hope that you receive something from this, Cancer. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.